Hi, this is On Imagination with the Healing Garden. Welcome to Shifting Perspectives. And if you are new to my channel, I am a philosopher, psychologist, sociologist of 30 years. So I shifted again. And I don't know where to begin. At every layer, I see something new, and I just go, oh. And I immediately go into the resilience. There's the self-resilience, and it moves fast. And then you count your resources. You take inventory. You take stock of what you have at your disposal. Oh, this is how we learn. This is how we learn. Learning 101. Hypothetical, what happens if we remove zero from the entire existence of everything? Because we never actually have anything to count if we have less than one, unless you're referring to fractions of a cup, which is a defined measurement. But if you're looking at one as being a whole, then how is it we don't know what an actual whole is? How could we say that one cup is equivalent to a whole cup of milk? Who determines what cup is? Where did that come from? So it implies that somebody is less of a fraction. That is exactly what the number 0 up to 1 whole actually means. Less of a whole. Less of a whole. Less of a whole. I want you to really sit on that for a minute. It means less of a whole. A whole what? A whole individual? A whole something? Which means you're a fraction of something. You're a fraction. You are one. Why would we ever tell our children that? Oh, the mind is very logical at that age. Very, very logical. You are too, we say to children. Why are we calling ages as if they are our names? Isn't that interesting? I am 43. Do you know what that means? Do you know what that means? Your age is your name. That's what it means. Now, how old are you? Really? Because if you remove the number 0, your birth date is actually the day you were conceived. You have sentience from the time of conception. Well, yes. Sperm are sentient. Sperm are sentient. Sperm are sentient. Which means your birthday begins at conception. Which means by the time you are born, you are officially one whole person. You're no longer a fraction of a person. You are one whole person. Why are we counting years? We got the calendar wrong. We got the calendar wrong because the calendar was originally supposed to be 10 months, which is why it's all messed up, is because there's a leap year. Thank you, Julius. I thought it was really strange. I can't follow standard measurement. I don't understand it. I do understand metric. Metric is something that when I bake, I go metric. I cannot comprehend standard. I don't get 1 foot. I don't get an inch. I don't comprehend any of that mathematical nonsense. I don't get it. I understand metric. 10 by 10 by 10 by 10. Perfection. Oh, I love tens. In fact, I love squares. I'm obsessed with them. I have them on my wall. Just a random painting of squares on my wall. I love, love, love squares. I see squares and I see tens. And I love drawing squares. I've been doing it all of my life. And I also love drawing triangles. Obsessed with drawing triangles. And I love tens. I love 10 by 10 by 10 by 10. When I found the Vikings calendar, the moon calendar, I loved the precision and the clarity of it. It was as if the moon calendar matched up perfectly with, wouldn't you know it, with math. See, that's the interesting thing. The 12-month calendar actually doesn't fit. I thought that was really interesting. It's like, why would you purposely fuck it up? But Julius Caesar was not an idiot. No, he was not. He was not an idiot. That man was a fucking genius. That man had the God code. So fucking beautiful precision. Look at this. If I change 10 to 12 here and here, what would that do to people if they couldn't determine their own age? We had a 10-month calendar, a sun calendar that was 10 months. It was called the Roman calendar. And you know who used the Roman calendar? Alexandria. It was Julius Caesar who came along and changed it on purpose. Julius, July, Augustus for August. I thought it was for his ego. We all thought it was for his ego. But I can see the God code. I can see math. And I'm looking at it going, you son of a fucking bitch. You did that on purpose. By adding 2 months to the 10-month calendar, he shifted the entire numbers in which we can record our own age. We don't know how old we are. He did that on purpose. You know what happens to a human being when they don't know how old they are? You want to know what happens to a human being when they don't know how old they are? Our age is our name. Hi, I am 1 of 2 of 4. That is my name. And my God, does it feel good? 1 of 2 of 4. You are probably 0.06. I'm sorry, 0.6. See, the numbers are wrong, aren't they? Because you're already a whole. Or are you a fraction? Are you a fraction of a whole? Maybe you're a fraction of the first pace that's gone, so you haven't completed a full year yet, a full perspective shift. So you're still in the first perspective. You're completing the first perspective, which means you are right about here in this dimension, 0.6 most likely. And you are a 0.6 of 1. Wow, 0.6 of 1. I'm still trying to figure out if the 0 is valid or not. It occurred to me that it goes 9, and then there is no 10. It goes right to 1, 1. So that midpoint with my 10th perspective was, in fact, never my 10th perspective. It was my 9th perspective. There was no 10. It went from the 9th perspective to the 11th perspective. 1 of 1. I don't know if the 0 needs to exist or not, but I do know that it's not 12, it's 1 of 2. It's 1 of 2, and then it's going to be 2 of 5, 2 of 3. So I just left one of one. But I believe that one of one is also the zero of the next age. So the last perspective is also the first perspective. The last perspective is the first perspective. So the 10th perspective. Or is there 12? 12 perspectives. 12 of 12? See, and I'm saying a lot more 10s than I'm saying 12s right now. I'm saying there's a lot of 12s that have been forced into our mind and into our subconscious mind where there should have only been 10s. 10 disciples, 10 perspectives, not 12. I believe Judas and Peter were of the same perspective and that they were just his really close advisor friends, less disciple. For instance, disciple just means follower. Doubting Thomas was of the fourth perspective. Doubting Thomas was just the fourth perspective. I can't tell if there's 10 or 12. I know I'm one of two. I can't tell the zero. I do not understand the purpose of the zero. I can understand if you are less than something, or are we in fact just not counting from the right place? Because we don't want to make abortion a problem, that's why. Because if we start counting at a different pace, I see. Interesting. Everything always comes back to an ethical code. How much responsibility can you claim? Time is getting faster. I can see things. There's really nothing more for me to do other than just keep journaling, keep reporting, keep writing, keep talking, keep describing what it is I see. Da Vinci was also part of it. The Bible was left for me. So I would know how to do it. I need to read the Bible. And I can see the path. I can see the path. When I completed the 11th perspective, I also internalized the first ethic, self-resilience, which tells me that 11 is actually the first perspective. Which means 11 is just one of one. Which has me questioning what one is in relationship to zero. When are we zero? When are we nothing? There was information. And we're supposed to carry this information through the ages. This information was put into a university by Plato in an attempt to make sure that our future would always have it. But Christ, like I did the math, and we can see where our behavior and our current actions lead us into the future. We can see it precisely. So could Da Vinci. So I understand. So when Rome began ransacking all of the ancient world, Christ could see and figure out quite easily that Alexandria was threatened, and that if they were wiping out all of the threats to the God Code, because Rome wanted to hoard this knowledge for themselves. As a result, Christ and Judas came up with a plan to ensure that the God Code would get to the future generations. They knew that at some point, someone would study everything required in the right order to unlock the code and have the knowledge. But they also knew how many generations of education would have to pass for you to get to that point, because it's a mathematical equation. You knowing the conjecture of the time that it takes from a person to grow, evolve, in addition to taking into account the dimensions in which they are passing through, while also going further away from the black hole / the Big Bang, your time is going to get faster, which is going to alter how we view time, because we are moving away from the Big Bang black hole. And that is going to affect time, because this is a gravitational magnetic pull on the other side pulling us back towards it. So while that's happening, that's going to alter how we value and execute time, which is why it's imperative that every dimension is on the number 10. Now, I don't know what that means, but let's go along with it for a minute. That 10 and dimensions are somehow significantly linked. And based on that calculation, you'll be able to see precisely what's going to happen in the right order with the future, just based off of the mathematical dimension of 10, with the amount of time that's going from the black hole / Big Bang into whichever dimension we are in now. So they knew exactly what would happen to Alexandria. They knew that Alexandria was going to be lost. They knew that this knowledge was going to be lost. And they knew that it was going to have to be found again. And they knew the world was going to be in significant chaos when that comes back. And they also knew it's going to get pretty fucking bad before it gets worse, because that is part of the God Code. You must experience significant suffering in order to have the emotion appreciation. That is a law of physics, energy physics, emotional physics. So this information they knew was going to be lost. Rome was already in a predictable pattern. They already had X amount of hundreds of years to go by. They were already looking at the whole span of time and space itself, looking at how this was going to fall. And they knew very soon Rome was going to take out Alexandria and lose the God Code forever. Now, how do you guarantee that this information passes from generation down to generation to ensure that the person who needs it in the future gets it? Well, that's easy. Story. How else? Story. And riddles. Story and riddles. Because that person would love stories and love riddles, and they would be highly logical. So they would see anomalies all over the place. So if I were them, I would purposely embed anomalies just to get that person's attention, just like they did in the Da Vinci Code. Look at that. Isn't that funny? That would get my attention. And that's exactly what happened. I sat down and I looked through history and I went, whoa, I got anomalies all over the place here. Something is not added. This is so illogical. Now I got to clean up all the logic. So I did. And that's when I realized that the Bible is just an instruction booklet for whoever person that is who wakes up the first one to go, holy shit, I found the God Code. And look at that, an instruction booklet just for me. Isn't that nice? Now, there's one other person, and I know what it was. I know precisely when it was, because Christ was a two of one of two. That means he was in the second round of perspectives of the first coming of the first era. That is Christ's age. That is Christ's name. Two of one of one. I'm sorry. Yes, two of one of two. Two of one of two. He was on the second round of the first coming of the second era. Now, he knew that with the second era, there's no way that information was going to last long. He knew at just the second era, there needed to be another way to ensure that this information got out and stayed alive for the next, they would need it into at least the fifth era. Fifth era. Now, right now, because we're leaving the fourth perspective into the fifth perspective. So we are now leaving the fourth era into the fifth era. And he needed to make sure that this data got carried on and passed on. What better way than oral story? Because that is exactly how we do everything. Oral story, gossip and rumors. And you have to make it a good story. And you have to make it a big story. But you really, and this is the important part, needed ABC to get to this person in the fifth era who would get it. Oh, yeah. So I can translate that. Then Da Vinci, he figured something out. He was better than Christ. There's another one here. Da Vinci made the corrections. You gorgeous man, you. I love that man. So Da Vinci provides the corrections required for me to figure out where the Bible went wrong, that Christ fucked up. No offense to Christ, but his math was wrong. Something was wrong. So when he put out the Bible, it was incorrect. Da Vinci, who was also further along, figured out the same thing that I figured out, which is, and Da Vinci was a 2 of 1. Like Christ and I, just like Socrates. 2 of 1. Oh, no, wait, this isn't. Yeah. No, 1 of 2. We're 12s now. Da Vinci is a 12. He was a 1 of 2. Christ was a 12. He was a 1 of 2 of 2. And Socrates was a 1 of 2 of 2. There it is. That's the number. That's the math. That's the combination. Da Vinci was a 1 of 2 of 4. No, he was of 3. When was Da Vinci born? Birth date. Oh, 1452. Oh, hell yes. He was in the third age. Oh my God, yes. He was definitely in the third age. Oh, wow. I had no idea. Thought he was around Shakespeare's time. 1616 is when I thought he was. So he was much younger than Shakespeare. Holy shit, dude. Good job. Okay, so Da Vinci was in the third age. Now, Socrates was in the first age. Christ was in the second age. Da Vinci was in the third age. Now, I bet you, and I know this because more information had come up, Da Vinci, and I am certain Da Vinci was definitely smarter than Christ. So Da Vinci took Christ's work and he tweaked it. That's what that was. And he hid it because he knows I love my puzzles. And he passed it along to make sure that that information continued to the person who would be the first 1 of 2 of 4. Or 1 of 2 of 5. I am on that transition cusp because we are entering into the fifth era. So I am 1 of 2 of 4 and I am 1 of 2 of 5. I am the first 1 of 2 of 4 and I am the first 1 of 2 of 5 because I am in that transfer, and they knew that it would have to get to this point. Now, here's where it goes. Let's go on over to, so basically he embedded a whole lot of things, Da Vinci did, in a bunch of resources to get my attention. For instance, Da Vinci invented the helicopter. No, he didn't. He didn't invent it. He saw it. It was a drawing for me to show me, hey, I can see the future. Look, a helicopter. And you'll know what this is. Why is a man from the 14th century drawing a picture of a helicopter? Well, I know why, because you can see the future just like me. So you can look through all the different dimensions and put it down on paper and go, whoa, look at that. That man can do a helicopter. He didn't invent it. He saw it because, boom, Da Vinci was a dimension walker. All right, so here we go. I'm going to go look at this helicopter of Da Vinci's because that would be, of course, the one thing I would send to myself because it would be the most intriguing. Dude, you have a helicopter. So let me take a look. And let me tell you what Da Vinci did. To correct the information that Christ left, I have to look at all of this stuff and figure out exactly what it is he did just to get my attention. The aerial screw, it's a working toy. An aerial screw. The first helicopter wasn't built in the 1940s. I believe that Da Vinci sketches in the were the predecessor to the modern flying. He manifested it. You bastard, you manifested the helicopter. Da Vinci scrawled, well, of course, yeah, I know, right? Oh, I could invent things. I didn't even think of that. Okay, I need to stay focused. Ooh, oh, Da Vinci scrawled next to us. I got to slow my brain down. I'm just like, yes, I can invent. If this instrument made with a screw be well made, that is to say, made of linen, on which the pores are stopped, this was the helical air screw. Fascinating, an air screw. Flying machines, Da Vinci. Vitruvian Man, that's going to be the next one I need to look up. Now, this one I'm very familiar with. Let me take a look at Da Vinci's Vitruvian Man. It goes helicopter to Vitruvian Man. What are you doing? What are you showing me? Now, I know it was always geometric proportions, teaching people the geometric correspondence between all the different parts of man. Yeah, the measure of all things. The measure of all things. The measure of all things? Is that really what we call it? All things? Come on, Da Vinci. Is that what you called it? Are those your words? This is a sketch of the Vitruvian Man. Many people instantly recognize the figure of the male body. However, is the significance of the term appreciated its inspiration in the ancient classical sources knowledge. The term Renaissance suggests this period celebrates a rebirth of classic literature. You did that on purpose. You did it. You took them to the next perspective. You did it. Oh, you did it on purpose. Da Vinci moved them from the third perspective to the fourth. Oh, I see what you did. Just like I'm moving them from the fourth to the, well, they're moving themselves to the fourth to the fifth. You were at the end of an era, just like I was. Depicted below, the School of Athens, Raphael, which shows the various philosophical schools of ancient Greece, captures, as this term Renaissance suggests, this period celebrated a rebirth of classical culture, its sources, ideas, wisdom, and heritage. Depicted below, the Scuola di Etana, the School of Athens, Scuola di Etana, okay, my Italian is shit, by the Italian painter Raphael, which shows the various philosophical schools of ancient Greece. You know how to get my attention. Captures this retrieval of sources well. It's the School of Athens by Raphael. For the sketch, Da Vinci drew inspiration from the work of the Roman citizen living at the turn of the 1st century, Marcus Vitruvius Pollio, hence the name of the painting, Vitruvian Man. Vitruvius wrote an important treatise on architecture called On Architecture, which is generally regarded as the oldest surviving work of its kind. Vitruvius was an experienced engineer and builder, although he had previously been a soldier. In his treatise, he explained in detail what Roman architects must consider when planning a project. Resources. The second perspective. The location of a site, the materials, techniques, decoration, water source, the application of science, and the use of technology. The interior design of a Roman home below illustrates clearly the concern for proportion, harmony, and order, something already evident in the idealized Greek house pictured beneath. The atrium, the tambleum, the hortus, the fascias. Their homes were geographically, mathematically proportioned in boxes. Why? 10 of 10. With regards to building, the challenge of the architect was to maintain a fitting proportion between these varied considerations. According to Vitruvius, the best buildings exhibit the harmony of strength, utility, and beauty, or in Latin, firmitas utilis venusitas, strength, utility, beauty. 3 again. Now, these should be carried out in such a way that account is taken. No, I need to write that down. That is important. All right, triangle, show me. Show me. Utility, strength, exhibit the harmony. Harmony. Oh, harmony. This is about harmony. Of course it is. Strength, utility, beauty. Oh, beauty would be the I of I. Strength would be the you of I. Utility would be the they of I. There it is. Vitruvius had one of the triangles. He had one of the triangles. Now, these should be carried out in such a way that account is taken of strength, utility, and grace. Account will be taken of strength when the foundations are carried down to the solid ground. Foundation, 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 foundation. Anna, this isn't for you. This is how to build a society. Beauty, strength, utility of a society. Oh, you beautiful man. Oh my God, Da Vinci. Okay, this isn't a building. This is a society. These should be carried out in such a way that account is taken of strength of a society, utility of a society, and grace of a society. Account will be taken of strength when the foundations, there's your foundationals, 1 through 4. Foundations are carried down to the solid ground. Foundations. Perspectives 1 through 4. That's the self. The self. The self is strength. And when, from each material, there is a choice of supplies without parsimony, of utility, when the sites are arranged without mistake. Just a minute, I need to look up parsimony. Extreme unwillingness to spend money or use resources. Scarcity. There is a choice of supplies without scarcity. Account will be taken of strength when the foundations are carried down to the solid ground, and one from each material there is a choice of supplies without scarcity. Scarcity cannot be part of building a foundation, which means abundance goes to the foundation, which means all surplus goes to the foundation. All surplus goes to the foundations. Understood. Of utility, when the sites are arranged without mistake and impediment to their use, and a fit and convenient disposition for the aspect of each kind. Cultivators. Utility. That's going to be the cultivators. This is going to be perspectives 4, 5, and 6. So 1 through 3 gets all the surplus. Utility, cultivators, 4, 5, and 6. You have the lawmakers. You have those taking into account accountability. And you have the 6, the self-forgiveness. 6 is about self. Oh, accountability. Self is on the bottom. You of I. Law is about the people. The they of I. The they of I come first. The they of I come first. The you of I comes second. It means I go last. Understood. But isn't that self-sacrificial? Grace. That would be me. Oh, the name of Grace. Oh, isn't that funny? Okay, that's put in there just to amuse me. Thank you. Yes, wordplay. Cute. When the appearance of the work shall be pleasing and elegant, and the scale of the constituent party is justly calculated for symmetry. Oh, that's gorgeous. Firmness ensures the structural integrity of a building because a building collapses without a strong foundation. Grounding a structure requires a specific kind of earthly constitution, not too soft, lest it stink, nor too hard, lest it prove difficult to dig. Okay, so it must be flexible. The foundation must be flexible, which means the first 3 perspectives must learn flexibility. That's part of this. Firmness depends on a foundation situated at the right depth. Understood. What that means is firmness is not about forcing, it's about internalizing. So strength is from how well you internalize. All right. The height and weight of the building, as well as its integrity, depend on firm foundation. The second important aspect of harmony is commodity or usefulness, the utility. Presaging our pragmatic attitude today, Vitruvius was realistic about the functional purpose of buildings. In assessing how best to design a building, he insisted it is crucial to consider how the use of space fulfills its function. No matter how sturdy, a library without shelving space can hardly serve as a library. The final requirement, so utility, functionality. The final requirement for harmony is grace or delight in beauty, the arts. I understand. With purpose, functionality, utility would be with purpose. This aesthetic requirement, often lost or disregarded today at the expense of practicality, is for Vitruvius just as important as firmness and use. Since delight is caused by the harmony and proportions of parts, this aesthetic requirement is the surest expression of harmony and order. Delight is the simplest test of integrity. That's what we forgot. Enjoyment. All right. So for integrity, we must learn. Oh, this is really nice having the answers given to me. Thank you, Da Vinci. Okay, so strength, utility, and the arts. And yes, we are still being destroyed by the arts. Vitruvius presents the order as he does to emphasize a progression. Utility relies on sturdiness, and beauty relies on commodity and delight. And to insist that I'm very excited, I just got to say, because Da Vinci left so many little Easter eggs. It's like I just found this massive ball at the end of a rainbow, this massive cauldron just filled with gold. And now I get to go through all of Da Vinci's work, which I've never done before, not with this perspective at least, and start studying it. And I cannot wait until I get to, oh my God, he was a 12th perspective. He absolutely was. He was in all of the arts. He wasn't a Renaissance man. He was just the 12th perspective. This makes so much sense, which is why he was painting, which is why he was sculpting, which is why he was writing and theorizing and drawing, and because he was using the arts to communicate through all this, because he would know you can't do that much. And then he was into the science and he was into physics. He absolutely was. And yeah, I'm certain he corrected Christ's work, which is what. Oh, I got to go in order. I'm not allowed to jump ahead. Anyway, as you can see, I now have to, oh, yay, me, go through all of Da Vinci's work and analyze what it is he left, because he is giving me the corrections that I need to apply to the Bible so that the Bible will actually shift where it needs to shift. After this, after I exhaust Da Vinci, I'm going to read the Bible and translate it through my perspective. Oh, it's going to be so much fun. We're going to get popcorn and pizza and we're going to make a thing of it. It's going to be so much fun. Okay. So Vitruvius presents the order as he does to emphasize, maybe I'll do it live. Maybe I'll do that live. Like I'll have a thing where it's like, just come watch me read the Bible live. I'm not going to record it on a thing. I'm going to do it live in New York City somewhere. That would be awesome. Tonight, I'm going to read the Bible. Vitruvius presents the order as he does to emphasize the progression. Utility relies on sturdiness, and beauty relies on commodity and delight, and to insist that all three orchestrate a common purpose together. Firmness, commodity, and delight ensure the integrity of building and its harmonies. But why was harmony the bottom line for Vitruvius? Cognitive dissonance and not efficiency. As is so often the case, perhaps, in our world, where arguably every aspect follows the dictates of pragmatism. It's because harmony matters more when you're into mathematics. Following a tradition dating back to the early Greek philosophers known as the Pre-Socratics, who lived some 6 centuries before Vitruvius, the Romans believed harmony to be the key to understanding the cosmos. For the Pythagoreans, for example, the cosmos dictates the order of the universe, a dimensional order that permeates all of existence, metaphysical, epistemological, moral, and ethical. Boom! Below is a medieval depiction of the cosmos, characterized by concretic circles within the earth and humanity at its center. Oh, they're trying to map the dimensions from the beginning of time. This is amazing. It's a diagram for Peter Apian's cosmography, which drew in medieval ideas. Yeah, this is actually them trying to see, except it's a circle and it needs to be a triangle. Oh, this is fascinating. Seeking harmony through firmness, commodity, and delight was for Vitruvius an exercise not only in building, but in mimicking the order of the universe. And of ordering human affairs accordingly. By attaining order, humanity assumes its allotted place in nature and in the harmony of the universe. So there you go. This is what this is all about. Harmony. Harmony. Oh, I love it. Vitruvius saw the human body itself, as a paradigmatic. Oh, this is where I'm reading words that I've never heard being pronounced before. I have no idea how to pronounce this word. Paradigmatic. Thank you. Paradigmatic. Oh, I believe I can finally read etymology now, like the pronunciation guides. Oh, that's nice. Syntax. Yeah, that's it. I can finally read syntax. Paradigmatic. Oh, that's wonderful. That is a nice change. That's going to make my life so much easier. Paradigmatic. And indeed, enigmatic. Oh, look at that. They're related. Manifestation. Ooh, look, I got to start over. I'm so excited now. Vitruvius saw the human body itself as a paradigmatic and indeed enigmatic manifestation of the harmony and the proportions formalized. Vitruvius was like us. I see. I understand. Vitruvius. Who was this man? He was like us. Come on. I love architecture so much. 1st century BC. 80. He lived. He was born before BC, Anna. Read. Roman architect. 60 years before Christ. He was born about 100 years before Christ. Was a Roman architect and engineer during the 1st century BC, known for his multi-volume works titled, 1st century versus, I'm saying it, as the only treatise on architecture to survive from antiquity. It has been regarded since the Renaissance as the first book on architectural theory, as well as a major source of the canon of classic architecture. It is not clear to what extent his contemporaries regarded his book as original or important. Little is known about Vitruvius's life, but by his own description, he served as an artilleryman, the 3rd class of arms in the Royal, so he was an officer. He probably served as a senior officer of artillery in charge of doctores, artillery experts. As an army infantry, he specialized in the construction of ballista. It is possible that he served with Caesar. Vitruvius gave Caesar the God code. I need a minute. Vitruvius's architecture was widely copied in the Middle Ages and survives. His full name is sometimes given as Marcus Vitruvius Pollio, but both the first and last name are uncertain. Vitruvius. Rites of Vitruvius Apollo, his can be read as Vitruvius Pollio. An inscription in Verona. Military. Served under Julius Caesar. And they were from the same family. An inscription in Verona, which names a Lucius Vitruvius Cordo, and an inscription of Thabilis in North Africa, which names a Marcus Vitruvius Mamura, have been suggested as evidence that Vitruvius and Maruma, who was a military praefectus februm under Julius Caesar, were from the same family. or were even the same individual. Neither association, however, is born out of the Architectura, which Vitruvius dedicated to Augustus, nor by the little that is known of Marmora. Vitruvius was a military engineer or a prefect architectus armamentarius of the Apparator Stratus group. I don't speak Latin. A branch of the Roman civil service. He is mentioned in Pliny the Elder's table of contents for natural history. In the heading of mosaics techniques, Frontinus refers to Vitruvius, the architect in his late 1st century de Aqueducta. Likely born a free Roman citizen. By his own account, Vitruvius served in the Roman army under Caesar with the otherwise poorly identified Marcus Aurelius, Publius Minidius, and Gaius Cornelius. These names vary depending on the edition of De Architectura. Publius Minidius is also written as Publius Numidicus, and Publius Numidius speculated the same Publius as the Roman theater at Heraclea. As an army engineer, he specialized in the construction of the ballista. The locations where he served can be restricted from, for example, you don't get this knowledge. You do not get this knowledge until and unless he went to the Library of Alexandria and he gave the God Code to Caesar. Fuck. This is what happens when you don't educate the common man. Building the construction of sundials and water clocks, and the design and uses of machines in construction and warfare. My question is, were there 12 or were there 10 on the sundial? Let's look up the history of the sundial. Let's go old. History of the sundial. The earliest type of timekeeping which indicates, I don't want Britannica, Wiki. Sundial, I want the first one. Horizontal 1862, there are several different types. Some sundials use a shadow at the edge, shadow casting object known as gnomon. Given the sundial, they're used likely to indicate time. Cylindrical lens, I need to explain. I've never explained this before, I've just done it. Okay, so here's the connection that I'm thinking. If Vitruvius invented the sundial, if he designed a sundial, I want to know if he had a 10 numbered sundial or a 12 numbered sundial. Now, if he has the knowledge that I have, and he does, then he would have either corrected it depending upon where he was. Either way, it's going to tell me which perspective he's at. And I really want to know, is it a 10 or a 12 disc? Now, we don't have much information from Vitruvius. So if I find his name here in this article on sundials, it will at least begin to point me to the direction of where the oldest one was. And originally, if it was 10, I believe that it got changed to 12 when the calendar changed over. Where did the sun calendar come from? Where did the clock come from? Why 12? Who put that number in there? 24 hours in a day? Is it 12 or is it 10? Come on, show me the first. Apparent motion of the sun. The Columbia Universal Sundial. History of sundials. Earliest sundials from archaeological record are shadow clocks. 1500 BC. Egyptian astronomy, Babylonian astronomy. Presumably humans were telling time from shadow lengths at an even earlier date. Hard to verify. 700 BC, Old Testament describes a sundial, the dial of Ahaz, mentioned in Isaiah to Kings. 240 BC, Estroethians, world's oldest sundial. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. It's 12. It's 12. That is from 1500s. The people of Kush created sundials through geometry. The Roman writer Vitruvius. There you go. There we are. I knew he'd be here. The Roman writer Vitruvius lists dials and shadow clocks known at the time in his De Architectura. The Tower of Winds, constructed in Athens, included sundial and a water clock for telling time. A canonical sundial is one that indicates the canonical hours of liturgical acts. Such sundials were used in the 7th and 14th centuries by the members of religious communities. The Italian astronomer Giovanni Padovani published a treatise on the sundials in the 1570s. I want to see Vitruvius's. All right, let's go to De Architectura. So now I'm on the 10 books on architecture. 10 again. So here's Vitruvius's book, De Architectura, published as 10 books on architecture. Why 10? Probably written between 30 to 20 BC. It combines the knowledge and views of the many antique writers, Greek, Roman, on architecture. Doric, Ionic, and Corinthian. And fortunately, I studied architecture, so I know exactly what we're talking about. For the development of temple buildings and the orders, Doric, Ionic, and Corinthian style column, and providing key accounts for the origins building in the primitive hut. Through often cited for his famous triad of characteristics associated with archaeology: utility, strength, and beauty. The aesthetic principle that influenced later treatises. How are they doing with these Easter eggs, guys? Influenced later treatises, writers were outlined in Book 3. Vitruvian terms for order, arrangement, proportion, and fitness for intended purposes have guided architects for centuries and continue to do so. The Roman author gives advice on the qualifications of an architect and the types of, I'm going to be so diving into these books. Can I get this on my... Roman architects were skilled in engineering, art, craftsmen combined. Vitruvius was very much of this type. Flagged, reflected buildings, the Greek house plans after Vitruvius, domestic architecture, aqueducts and mills. Materials, dewatering machines, force pump, central heating. Central heating. He saw it. Central heating. The aqueduct. All of the Roman buildings. He's the reason why. He built Rome. Oh, he was. He was seeing the future, so he was creating indoor plumbing. Because he saw it. Oh, you sneaky man. He saw all of this, so he manifested it. Oh, we are the manifestation of Vitruvius. Boom, that's how it's done. The anaphoric clock found in Salisbury, the description of our anaphoric clock. Water clock. The earliest evidence of use of the stereographic projection in the machine is De Arche, which describes an anaphoric clock. It was presumed a water clock in Alexandria. I knew you were going to be part of this. All right, there we go. An anorific clock, it is presumed a clepsydra or water clock in Alexandria. The clock had a rotating field of stars behind a wire frame indicating the hours of the day. The wire framework, the spider, and the star locations were constructed using the stereographic projections. This is a star clock. Similar construction dated from the 1st to the 3rd centuries have been found in Salzburg in northeastern France. So much mechanisms were, it is presumed, fairly widespread among Romans. No, if Alexandria says so, that is right. Water clock or clepsydra. Pipet water clock to steal water thief. It is a timepiece by which time is measured by the regulated flow of liquid into a flow type or out of a vessel for which the amount is then measured. Water clocks are one of the oldest time measuring instruments, and it is the one approved of in Alexandria. The bowl-shaped outflow is the simplest form of a water clock and is known to have existed in Babylon, Egypt, and Persia around the 16th century BC. Other regions of the world included India and China. Also have, see, every one of those is a little pin saying they had it figured out, they had it figured out, they had it figured out. Also have early evidence of water clocks, but the earliest dates are less certain. Water clocks were also used in ancient Greece and ancient Rome, described by technical writers such as Vitruvius. A water clock uses the flow of water to measure time. Its viscosity is neglected. The physical principle required to study such clocks is Torricelli's law. It's a theorem. Torricelli's law or Torricelli's theorem is a theorem in fluid dynamics related to the speed of fluid flowing from an orifice to the height of fluid above the opening. This is the only day of science that I have remembered in my head. We had to put like little things down, and we had to time how long it took for the sediment to settle. In the meantime, there was like a little hole at the bottom that just spat out water, and we had to time how long it took from each height down to each. Yeah, I remember this. Oh yeah, there it is, a graph. The law states that the speed of efflux of a fluid through a sharp-edged hole at the bottom of the tank filled to a depth h is the same as the speed that a body would acquire in falling freely from a height. This expression, see, this to me is just magnetism from the gravity pull that is having to do with time being elongated out. The law was discovered because of depending upon where we are in relationship to the black hole / Big Bang, which is just us being spat out on the other side of the black hole. Okay, which is why it's propelling us forward. It was later known to be a particle cause of Bernoulli's principle. Under the assumptions of incompressible fluid with negligible viscosity, Bernoulli's principle states that the hydraulic energy is constant. The hydraulic energy is constant. At any 2 points in the flowing liquid, here is... Why am I understanding this? I shouldn't understand this. The pressure P1 are both atomic pressure. So P1 equals P2. It's language. It's just a language. They're just words. It's just words. They're just words. It's a code. Math is an abbreviation. It's just words. It's shorthand. Mathematics is just shorthand for physics. Are you fucking kidding me? Mathematics is just shorthand for physics. This is... Mathematics is just shorthand for physics. Okay. Let's go back to the calendar. Two types of water clocks: inflow, outflow. Their timekeeping is governed by a pendulum, but they use water for other purposes, such as providing the power needed to drive the clock by using a water wheel or something similar. A water clock is one of the oldest and most important instruments. The Greeks and Romans advanced water clock design to include the inflow clepsydra with an early feedback system, gearing, and an escapement mechanism, which were connected to fanciful automata. So Vitruvius corrected the water clock. Independently, the Chinese developed their own advanced water clocks, incorporating gears, escapement mechanism, and water wheels, passing their ideas on to Korea and Japan. You know what that is? That is the God code spreading. Some water clock designs were developed independently. You know, I've been trying to figure this out for years. I'm looking at it going, what happened? I'm looking at the third perspective. I'm watching them build this massive, and I'm going, how do you do this with the ancient world? How do you build pyramids? And they did. How did they build pyramids? How did they do this? How did they, the mathematics, they were at the epicenter of knowledge and education. And then I look at the third perspective and I'm going, oh my God, we're so stupid. What happened to our education? They took away the God code. That's what happened to our education. This is a question I have been trying to figure out from sociology for a very long time, since I was 12 years old. I have been trying to figure this out. Since 1992, I have asked the question, what the fuck happened? This is what the fuck happened. They took away the God code, so we couldn't figure out how to learn anymore. That's all. That's it. They took away the God code, those dumb shits. We just forgot how to learn. So that by the time we got to the third perspective, well, the third age, the Dark Ages, we were idiots. None of us could even read. You had this massive, massive educational society. For God's sakes, the ancient world had an entire city dedicated to education. A whole city. And we were creating the aqueduct and we were creating, and I'm going, what the fuck? This is like, and we're building pyramids. And then we have the golden age of Islam where we're creating algebra. And the Crusades were designed to wipe out the God code. I'm literally on a mission to map exactly where the God code popped up in history. That's what I'm doing. I am mapping history. So the God code popped up during this time period. Oh my God, I'm at 1 hour. Well, I'll continue anyway. The God code popped up during certain time periods throughout history. It popped up with Christ. It popped up with Alexandria. It popped up with Da Vinci. He had the God code. It popped up with Vitruvius. And it popped up with, who else had it? Christ, Alexandria, Da Vinci, Vitruvius. The Islamic Golden Age, that's when we created algebra. Now, it was prosperous. It was all over the place. Everyone was allowed to have the God code. Everyone was allowed to learn, which is why you saw Rome just explode into what it was until Vitruvius gave it to Caesar. Now, Caesar never went to that university. Caesar was like Alexander the Great. They were third perspectives. They had absolutely no business about it. Because when you learn the God code, part of that ethic, this was the contradiction. Part of the ethic is morals. Preservation of other people. Sixth perspective, accountability. Julius Caesar had none. Alexander the Great had no accountability. He was still showing signs of a third perspective aggressor, which is why he imperialized. People who actually internalize the God code are pacifists. Yet Alexander the Great and Julius Caesar were violent. And yet they had knowledge that was beyond their perspective. That is what I call an anomaly. So I started to figure out, drawing the connection, how did Rome get their hands on this information if they never attended the school? Because had they attended the school, they would have internalized the ethics. It means that they got their hands on it without going to the school because they didn't pass, which means they got their information from some other source. Now, I thought Alexander the Great had it. Vitruvius had it. He passed it on to Caesar. He worked under him. Caesar got that information. Now, the Council of Nicaea basically used the Christian religion to completely alter it because they knew, according to the God code, that the Christian religion was actually the God code embedded from Christ. It was around the same time, it was the exact same time period. So they knew Christ had the God code. They knew Alexandria was giving out the God code. They had to eliminate this thing so they could monopolize the God code. That is what this is about. They wanted to monopolize the God code. Oh, how fucking disgusting is that? Oh, I see what they did. So Caesar's whole plan was to monopolize the God code, to take the, oh God, this is so fucking disgusting, to take the entirety of the God code and use it just for the Caesar family. Now, in order to do that, he had to change a few things. First, the numbers had to be changed from 10 over to 12, which is why he added 2 months, Julius and August, to the calendar to take away our age so we wouldn't know how old we are. Then he had to eliminate any threat. The first threat was Socrates. Now, this is a 300, 500-year-old plan. This is not something they orchestrated overnight. I believe the Caesar family rose in power because they planned this for centuries, putting it in order and in execution in order to get to this point, because Socrates was killed when he had the God code. And then they put it into a university where you had to have a requirement to even get in. Alexander the Great had the God code, and then he imperialized all of the Roman Empire and gained Julius Caesar the power that he needed to get what he needed. From there, Alexandria, Alexander the Great, and Alexandria was named after Alexandria, which means the founder of Alexandria, Alexander the Great, was in fact the carrier of the God code, which is why the university was in Alexandria to begin with. Now, from Plato, you had that requirement that you get in, so not everyone could just access this place. Christ had it. And when the Caesar family finally wanted to take control and monopolize the God code, they killed Christ. But Christ saw it coming because he had the God code. So he was able to put together his story, go out with a bang to make sure that his message got passed over the centuries, because the person who figures this shit out in this century had to be able to figure out how to put it all back together again. Because being 2,000 years without the God code is going to leave you an absolute mess of a planet to clean up. Da Vinci figured this out, put the information in his work, and he passed off the corrections onto whoever it was that figures this shit out in this century. Meanwhile, everything points back to Vitruvius, which was the missing link, the part that I couldn't figure out, which is who passed on the God code to Caesar to begin with. And with that information, I also got the additional triangle harmony, which again ties into the God code because it's all linked on those triangles. So the question now is there 10 perspectives or is there 12? Now, there's been a lot of shady shit happening since the 9th perspective. So I'm looking from the 9th to the 10th and I'm going, did I ever really cross into the 10th? And it didn't feel like I did. Not at all. It didn't feel the same. So I've been questioning the 10th perspective since it's happened. Now I knew when I was at the 11th perspective, which is 1 of 1, and 1 of 1 is just another 1. It's the I of I. And it all keeps coming back. And again, I am the beginning and the end. So 11 is also 1. It's the new 1, which now brings me into question the existence of 0. Does 0 actually exist? Now, again, we see the Islamic Golden Age. They popped up with this information. And the first thing that happened, the Crusades happened in an attempt to wipe out the God code because they could not afford the God code getting out. And Islam had figured it out, which is why we had the algebra, the numbering system that we had. 1, 2, 3, 4. All of those are Arabic numbers, Islamic numbers from the Islamic Golden Age. And that's why we had the Crusades, because they were just making sure that they stamped it out everywhere they found it. Anytime the God code pops up in history, the Christians, the Romans were there to completely wipe them from existence to make sure the God code doesn't get out, because Caesar had a monopoly on the God code, which they then passed over to the Roman Catholic Church. Their entire plan was to keep us stupid so they could keep the God code, which is also why they removed philosophy from our education system. So we couldn't figure this out, because philosophy is the key. After they eliminated philosophy, we've just gotten stupider ever since. The whole damn human race has gotten dumb and dumber. Then in the 1980s, they cut out art. And then again, in the year 2000 to 2010, they cut out more art. Now we don't even know how to communicate. They are making us stupider. Art is how you learn how to communicate. It's how you learn how to learn. It's how you learn how to tell stories. It's how you learn how to teach. Art is what that does. All right, so I need to go back on Da Vinci's work. I need to look into more of what Vitruvius did. I'll be reading his work, and then I need to read the Bible. Those are the 3 pieces. And I need to also study Alexander the Great a little bit more, just to confirm that I've got all of that up and running. But Christ, Da Vinci, and Vitruvius are the 3 that are linked to a huge chunk of this, because I believe that, I know it, I can see it. Their whole goal was to get that information to whoever figured this out in this time period. Now, one more thing is nagging me, and it's Washington, D.C. I can't get DC out of my head with this. There is something, okay, I'm just going to say it. Knights Templar. Something, Ben Franklin. Inventor of the stove. Ben Franklin is one of them. Ben Franklin. I don't think Thomas Jefferson. He was an inventor. Maybe Thomas Jefferson. Not John Adams. But Ben Franklin, Thomas Jefferson, they're part of this too. No, they're definitely part of it. I really want to say Ben Franklin was yeah. I gotta draw maps. I gotta figure this out. Once I'm able to track all of the God code down to wherever it popped up in history, then basically there's clues that they left, little messages embedded, but you have to be 10th, 11th perspective in order to even read the codes to understand what's going on. So, all right. because this is, and I mean, most of it's figured out. I've already broken it down. It's making sure that the 12, let's say 12 for now, but the 12 ethics basically have to be learned in order. And in learning them in order with the how to learn how to learn. It can be compromised in down like a 90-minute lesson. It's quite simple. So the first ethic is self-resilience. And then the next one is resourcefulness. And that is where Vitruvius comes in. Vitruvius is going to, like, he clicked so much into place there. And then community. So just by focusing on self-resilience and then parenting, incorporating this into our parenting through lead and example, we will literally be walking our way toward world peace, which is when we all have access to the God code. So we all have the ethics in the right order that we need them to stop fighting. And because we will become more logical, more educated, more smart, we're going to very quickly evolve away from war, violence, fighting, because those are only things that are practiced with people who are in the fourth perspective or lower, which all we have to do is learn the ethics in order, first in ourselves as an example to our children. And we need to completely radical change. We need to change the way we parent our children. Once we do that, we will be well on our way to world peace. But everyone has to have access to the God code, which is not a problem. So, which is just learning how to learn, which is ask questions, listen to learn, and keep an open mind. Those are the three core parts to the God code. And then emotions equals philosopher's compass. We'll need the philosopher's compass through this. Emotional energy is the philosopher's compass. So once we get all the parts together, and then it's so logical, and our brains will just pick up the logic, and it goes. It pushes it right through. It's beautiful how it all works together. So we'll be doing that, and then I just got to learn more about Vitruvius and Da Vinci. So, all right. If you love shit like this, like, subscribe, follow, comment below. Let me know what part of the show resonates with you. And if you want to learn more about me or join my community, please click on the link below. I am in the process of collecting 3 stories. I want to know how you found the energy. I want to know what world peace looks like for you. I really want to know this question. It's something I'm asking everybody, that if you had a day of world peace, what would it look like? And then the third question is, if you have access to a child who is 2 years or younger, ask them if they remember what it's like to be a baby. I would really love this information. So tell your stories, click on the link below, click on Change Now, and then there's a form that pops up where you can message your story to me so I can accumulate the data and start comparing everyone's perspective, because this is awesome. Thank you so much, and may the kindest of words always find you.